We have more methods of sampling poorly, okay? The two that we've so far learned are convenience sample. That's a bad one, okay? And then we learned voluntary response, where you choose yourselves. That's a bad one. All right, and then we learned the good ones, which are an SRS. Every group of size N has the same chance of being chosen. And a cluster, where you do like a group sitting near each other, but they look like the population. So that's good. And stratified, where you sample from similar groups. Okay. Now we're going to talk about these bad methods. The process of drawing conclusions about a population on the basis of a sample is called inference. So when we make inference, like I gather everyone in Devlin, not everyone, maybe 100 kids' opinion. I take a sample of 100 and I'm like, hey, how do you feel about the away for the day cell phone policy? And then I make inference on how everyone feels based on that sample of 100 kids. Okay. All right, let's say we're at some large university like CU Boulder, and only 70% of kids go to class. Do you want me to? So 70% of students at CU Boulder go to class on any given day. Okay, they know that that is the true proportion who go to class on average every day. Now, if I ask 100 kids, did you guys go to class today? Is that sample going to be exactly 70%? No, there is going to be variability from sample to sample. So every 100 kids that I ask, did you go to class today? Right? Maybe I get a 65%, maybe I get a 90%. And so what we can do is create what's called a simulation. All right, so here they make a whole bunch of dots. There's 500 dots. Each of these dots represents a sample of 100. For example, let's say this is like, I don't know, 83%. So 0.83, this one little p-hat, this little sample, represents where 83 out of 100 kids said they went to class, right? So it varies all over the place, but right in the center is the truth, all right? And notice the shape of the distribution. Yeah, kind of symmetric, roughly normal looking. All right. What happens when I increase my sample size? All right, let's go back to this. Let's say I actually, instead of asking 100 kids, did you go to class today? I asked 400 kids, did you go to class today? Do you think I'm going to be closer to the truth or further from the truth? Closer. Let's say I want to know the average height of all the Devlin students. And I decide to sample 2 kids' height. 2 kids, okay? Is there going to be a lot of variability, or am I going to be pretty close to the true mean height? A lot of variability. Those 2 kids might be my 2 smallest kids or my 2 tallest kids. All right, there's going to be a ton of variability. Whereas if I ask 50 kids their height and then average all 50 kids, I'm going to be closer to the truth, okay? So here we're going to change our sample size from 100 to 400. So I still do this 500 times. There's 500 dots. But each dot represents a sample of 400 kids. Notice I don't have any over here in the 83% or the 58s, which I had, thank you, on the other one. All right, so my standard deviation totally decreased. All right, so the main thing I would write down, you guys, is as you increase n, and n is your sample size, you decrease your standard deviation or your spread or your variability. All those words mean the same thing. Okay, we're going to get a lot more samples closer to the truth because I asked 400 kids instead of 100 kids. Okay. Okay, what can go wrong? Undercoverage occurs when some members of the population cannot be chosen in the sample. For example, if you decide you're going to send something out to houses, or you're going to go knock on some doors, all right, and you randomly pick like 10 houses in your neighborhood to go ask some question to, I guess if you're pertaining to your neighborhood, you're okay. But if you're trying to pertain to just like everyone in that area, you're going to miss out on the homeless people. Okay? If you do some kind of phone call, you're going to miss out on the people without phones. Back in the day, we had something called landlines. Maybe some of you still have them, all right? So if you only called landlines, you'd be missing out on the people who don't have a landline, which is now like probably 90% of the population, okay? So you want to make sure when you're taking a sample that it is representative of the population. Even at Devlin, if you're sampling Devlin students and it's like people who are here that day, you have undercoverage for the people who aren't here that day. But if you're sampling from the yearbook, right, and then you made sure you got all of those 20 people, you'd probably be good to go. All right, unless someone wasn't in the yearbook. That would be sad, okay, if they got left out. All right, so undercoverage is like you unintentionally leave people out, okay? Non-response occurs when an individual chosen for the sample can't be contacted or refuses to participate. Non-response. So you do your sample from the yearbook and you pick 20 Devlin kids that you're going to go ask them about their opinion on the away for the day policy, and you email them your survey, and they ignore your email. Rough. And you email them again, and you email them again, and you email it, but they just ignore you. All right. Now, the word response is in a few of these, right? Voluntary response is when you choose yourself to respond, like you call in, or you choose on Snapchat to respond. But non-response is when someone got picked, they're the winner in your sample, but you cannot get a hold of them, they refuse to participate. A systematic pattern of inaccurate answers in a survey leads to response bias. So response bias is just lying. That's basically all it is, okay? Now, this could be intentional or not intentional. Like, I was like, how much homework did you guys have? And you just like embellished. Yeah. Okay, that could be response bias. Or I asked you an uncomfortable question, maybe about your drug and alcohol use, and you were, I don't know, I'm just making something up, okay? That you felt like, thanks for asking, Miss Weber, I didn't really want to talk to you about that, all right? So any kind of lying. So we have voluntary response bias. What's that? People choose to respond. What's non-response? Yeah, you can't get a hold of them. They refuse to participate. And what's response bias? Yeah, lying is the best way for me to think of it, okay? And again, it could be unintentional lying. Sometimes it's hard to exactly remember. All right, the wording of the question can influence your response. All right, wording of the question. For example, how do Americans feel about illegal immigrants? Should illegal immigrants be prosecuted and deported for being in the U.S. illegally, or shouldn't they? Ask this question in an opinion poll, 69% favored deportation. But when the very same sample was asked whether illegal immigrants who have worked in the United States for 2 years should be given a chance to keep their jobs and eventually apply for legal status, 62% said they should be able to stay. So different questions give different impressions on the attitudes, okay, on how people feel. So think about your wording of the question could be influencing results, all right? Order of the question also matters. If I was like, hey guys, how happy are you with your life in general? How many dates did you have last month? Yeah, you were like, I just got so sad. Okay, so like depending on the order, it might influence you, okay? All right, let's talk about what type of bias. The sample is chosen at random from a telephone directory. I agree. Under coverage, okay? Under coverage, I mean, those people in jail are probably not in the telephone directory. I don't know. Or someone doesn't have a phone. I don't know. We also just don't even have telephone directories anymore. So, okay, this is not relevant, but that's okay. All right, some people cannot be contacted in 5 calls. Non-response. They're ignoring you. I am busy. Those, yeah. What if they have an away? That's true. All right, interviewers choose people walking by on the sidewalk. I would agree with convenience too. There's another one. Cluster is a good sample. It's definitely not a good sample. It kind of depends on like who you're trying to sample. Sometimes I don't like that they don't tell you what the population is, right? But let's just say we're saying people in Colorado or something. You're standing on the sidewalk, right? Again, under coverage. You're just leaving people out who aren't there. Okay, they're not on the sidewalk. All right, a survey paid for by the makers of disposable diapers found that 84% of the sample opposed banning disposable diapers. And this was the question. It is estimated that disposable diapers account for less than 2% of the trash in today's landfills. In contrast, beverage containers, third-class mail, yard waste are about 21% of the trash. This is all my trash right here. It's so much, okay, clean up. Given this, in your opinion, would it be fair to ban disposable diapers? What's the bias or what's the problem? Wording of the question. So they're basically saying diapers aren't that big of a deal, right? All this other stuff is taking up all of your space in your trash and in the landfills. Okay, so they're kind of wording of the question. You're probably going to have an underestimate there. All right.